So today's session is all about ideation. We're going to listen to some alumni today who are going to share their tips on finding their problems. We're going to be doing an activity on identifying problems. So if you're not sure what exact problem you want to focus on yet, that might be something that you walk away from the session with, or at least a better idea. And we're going to talk about how to incorporate some user research to make your problem even better. We are at the beginning of our journey. So some of you have already gotten started. If you're here, hopefully, you need some help. That's great. I think that this is a great community to get help from. So we're in the first stages of figuring out the problem. And for a lot of girls, this is the hardest part of the whole entire Technovation journey. So if you're feeling like you're a little confused or you're not sure exactly what problem to focus on, don't worry. That's completely normal. And you'll probably feel a little like you might encounter some other problems along the way too, right? So this is what these live classes are here for. Shagun, take it away.
Salut everyone, I'm Shagun Jana and I'm an activist, student and author. I'm currently studying STEM in high school and I'm so thrilled to be able to portion my journey with all of you today. So me and my team built an app that focuses on helping young menstruators around the world and spread cognizance around menstrual health, and it won the Technovation Montreal chapter senior division. Our app is Womenster, which is the amalgamation of the quintessential terms women, menstruation, and future. I aimed at smashing this stigma because I personally felt the need for it, and this is something no woman on this planet should ever be uninformed about or not have enough resources for having a safer period. As a student ambassador, I still recall a little girl in school coming up to me asking on how should she identify the problem to work on, and my prime response to it was what troubles her when she goes outside or what conceptions bloom in her head when she explores. So I suggested different topics which were relevant to India and other developing nations, and soon she herself came up with national hunger and poverty, which made her even more enthusiastic for the competition. Moving on to some tips, I have a few personal ones which help me to certain extents, but let me remind you at the same time that in this particular world, there are no hard and fast rules, complicated methods, or even that stubborn syntax, which makes it my favorite. To believe in yourselves and never ever, not even for a second, doubt that power which is contained inside each one of you. Secondly, this role requires you to be very open and very patient with every individual, as we all have different mindsets. Lastly, I recommend sticking to the ideation curriculum and mixing it seamlessly with your ingenious and optimistic ideas. I hope all of you have a marvelous, marvelous time and an unforgettable experience learning and implementing so many new things. Thank you ever so much for being such a lovely and present audience.
Thank you, Shagun. Awesome tips. Next up is Student Ambassador Ella from Indonesia. Go ahead, Ella.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ella Sihan. I'm 16, and I joined the Technovation Girls Challenge last year as part of the senior division, and I'm from Jakarta, Indonesia. So there's a lot of problems in this world, and it's really hard to actually figure out which one to work on. I'll be talking about finding the right problem and also things to look out for when it comes to finding problems, and this is coming from personal experience. So on mid-November of 2020, my team and I contacted our mentors for the first time and got started. We decided on a schedule, which is something I really recommend you guys to do. And the plan was that we'd have a problem and a solution by New Year's, basically an idea. See, New Year rolls in and we don't have both a problem and a solution. And then January, still none. By mid-February, we realized, okay, we're really running out of time, and we decided on one: waste management, which stems from our observations in Indonesia. It took us 3 months and we did a lot of mistakes, and I'm here to tell you what they were. First, note that I put problem and solution together. That was probably one of the biggest mistakes, because what ended up happening was that we were so interested in so many problems that we ended up trying to find a solution for everything we saw. We didn't really dig down and understand a problem from a deeper level. Don't fall into the hole of trying to find a solution right away. Find a problem, learn it inside and out, and then solve it. Number one is brainstorming. Put everything on the table. I personally recommend Jamboard because my team and I did it fully online, and we could rearrange the post-it notes and play around with different ideas. Second is analyzing it. This is going to be the most time consuming. Categorize and connect. Put all of the problems related to, say, waste management together, and then all of them related to poverty, and then all of them are related to sustainability together. From here, you should be able to draw some sort of connections between them. From doing this, you will find out that some problems are simply just symptoms of other problems, a symptom and then a root cause. Let's say people don't have a job, therefore they lack money, and therefore it's hard for them to buy quality food, and it could lead to malnutrition. I hope it shows that a lot of problems are interconnected. Finally, deciding on a problem. And this part is the most subjective. Really, it's about you. What do you like? What do you care about? Because if you do have passion for this problem, if you are passionate about it, it makes the whole process a lot more enjoyable.
Thank you so much, Ella. Thanks again to both SAs for sharing your experiences as you work to identify your problems, because it is one of the hardest parts, I think, of the whole competition. All right, let's continue into the activity. We're going to start identifying problems and working to help you identify your own problems. As you know, the Technovation Girls competition does ask you to link your problem to one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So we have classified them into a couple of different categories here just to process a little bit easier, because there are so many goals. So if you think about, different basic needs, healthy minds and bodies, justice, peace, environment, community, I think that can be a helpful way to sort of think about what kind of problems are we even thinking about in general, and then think about your community. And if you want to learn a little bit more about the Sustainable Development Goals, I put the link into the chat. It's also in the curriculum. Check them out. So these are some of the problems that participants last year tackled. So if you participated last year, you are represented here in what you looked at. So, health and environment and education are usually the top three areas that people like to solve problems in, but you are free to solve problems in whatever area is most important to you and your community. All right, next up is our amazing speaker, Sarah Jane. I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself because you have such a fascinating background, and Sarah Jane is going to be leading us through some activities.
Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be with you all here for 2022's Technovation. What an exciting start to the journey. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that were mentioned earlier, with some activities around brainstorming and design thinking and ideation. So my background is actually in architecture. I began my journey in architecture and then got into the creative leadership program, where I, like you folks, created a project through a lot of the techniques that we will be using here to work towards sustainable development goals. And I became an integral coach and actually work as a technical team lead in Shopify. So as you can see, it's quite a varied background and lots of interesting things going on. So hopefully I'll be able to provide some good insights and a little bit of fun along the way for you folks today. So we'll kick off with our little activity to kind of getting us thinking outside the box. One of the most powerful things that we have when it comes to brainstorming is our ability to see the everyday in a new perspective and a different way. And what do I mean by this? It's if you're walking down the street and you see something, is it just a street, or could it be the highway to the most magnificent place that you've ever been? How creative can you get with your imagination in the environment that you're in? An example I have of this is, does everybody know what this is? I don't know if you can see it. It's a hairbrush, right? So what other uses could we have as a hairbrush? What have you folks used it for? Some people might use it as a microphone when you're performing with your friends. It could be a whisk to froth up your milk. Is there some other ideas coming along? Brushing your hair? Yeah, we use it. Brushing your hair, yeah, of course. You could use it as a toothbrush, quite an aggressive toothbrush, but it could be a toothbrush. Could use it to massage. You can get little dimples and things to clean something. A mic, excellent. So we could take another everyday item like a pen. And what other uses could we have as a pen? So if you take the inside out, it could become a straw, or you sometimes see people doing it and rolling up a little piece of paper and popping it in and making it a rocket launcher. Or if you get stuck for a hairband, you could always tie your hair up, clean your ears, a stress toy, tie your hair up, hit someone. Another microphone, a magic wand, see? Curling hair, excellent. So there's loads of different things that a pen gets transformed from not just an everyday writing device, but there's a myriad of different things. And so when we think of brainstorming, there's no idea too big, too small, too strange, too normal. It's about expanding and saying anything that can pop into your head and getting really excited about all of the possibilities. Drumsticks, excellent. Note taker. See, you guys are amazing. There's loads of ideas coming up. So what we're going to do, we're going to pop on to the next slide here, and we're going to talk a little bit about design thinking. And keep this in mind, keep all of those popping ideas that are coming up for you guys in mind, because we'll be asking more of this from you when it comes to your own problem solving. So when we talk about design thinking, you might have heard this word thrown about a lot, but at its very basic level, it's a solution-based technique for solving a problem. So it creates a process that engages a person in opportunities to empathize and understand the user's needs. So identifying and redefining the problem, brainstorming ideas, and then testing these ideas using prototypes to learn and iterate towards the best solution. So that's what you all will be doing this year. You're going to come up with a problem statement. You're going to see how to empathize with the users that you'll be solving the problem for. You're going to brainstorm and ideate around it and make sure then you're getting user feedback, and you create a prototype, and then you present the best solution based on all of this research together. So let's say if I was to ask you to design a car, okay, you could go crazy. It could be the fanciest car. It could have all of these LED lights, could have a musical horn. There could be a disco ball in the middle of it. It can go loads of different speeds. You know, that's one way of creating something. But what happens if I asked you to design a way to transport people from one place to another? Suddenly your options are unlimited. You're not confined to just the car, because you're looking at what is the goal of a car? What is the purpose of a car? What are you solving by designing a car? You're solving a way from getting to A to B. So if we then scrap the idea of a car, we've got an unlimited array of things that we could do. You know, you could create a teleporting device like Willy Wonka in the TV, or you could make an airplane, or you could have roller skates with rockets on them, and it gets you from A to B. But it all depends then on who you're designing this for, who's going to be the user. And that's where it gets really, really interesting. And that's where, when you feel really passionate about something, you can create that empathy. So let's take another example here. And we could create the problem or the question of, it's your mom's birthday or one of your parents' birthdays. What can you do? How do you start? And it's like, it's my parents' birthday. What do I want to do? Okay, you might say, let's make a cake. Or you could buy a cake, or you could have ice cream instead of a cake, or you can have a chocolate tree instead of a cake or instead of ice cream. But what we do is, once we have got all of these different ideas of how we're going to celebrate the birthday, we then start narrowing it down, going, oh, well, maybe mom doesn't like dairy at the minute, or chocolate isn't her favorite thing, but she does like sponge. Then you're starting to see where some ideas are connecting and where some ideas are like, no, we don't need this anymore. And then you find out things like she prefers when you hand make stuff. So she doesn't like chocolate and she doesn't like dairy. So the cake and the chocolate tree are off the agenda. So we're going to make, there's going to be a cake, but she likes things homemade. So we're going to home make a cake. So you go from a problem statement with all of these huge options, and then you bring it into the community of the user, and you ask them, what do they need and what do they like and what makes them really happy, or what's solving something for them. And then you get to narrow down all of your choices. And then you can start looking at what ingredients can be in the cake that you're about to make and how best to make it. Buy a present. I love this. Make a card. Look at our Amazon wish list. That is so clever. I wish we had Amazon wish lists when I was a kid. So we're going to pop on to the next slide and talk a little bit about brainstorming problems. So as Rebecca mentioned, we've got the Sustainable Development Goals. These will be at the heart of your problem statement. So what you will do is to approach this is look at the Sustainable Development Goals and have a look at what one you empathize most with, what one speaks to your heart. So do you want to look at poverty? Do you want to look at hunger? Do you want to look at education? You know, what keeps you up? Where do you ask questions? You know, so if you have a look at the Sustainable Development Goals and pick one that resonates with you, then you move into kind of the brainstorming mode where you generate loads of ideas really quickly based on poverty or based on hunger. Like if it was hunger, free school meals or breakfast club or subsidies so people could grow their own vegetables in schools and start a collective school garden. All of these things might go to solve hunger, but then we need to look within our environment and see where they're best placed. And how we innovate on this is we'll then choose one of these ideas that works within a goal and then try and look at that from a multiple different angles. So like, how would you get a garden going in a school? Do you start it in little milk cartons, or do you dig up a whole football pitch and do it? So there's lots of different ways then to approach it, because then you have to look at the environment and see what is available, what resources are available to make this project work. What do you want to measure and what do you want to offer? So we'll pop on to the next slide. And as an activity, we will brainstorm. So a couple of the best ideas of brainstorming, as Ella mentioned, is the Jamboard. So we can have a look at that in a moment. But it's a really cool way to just whatever's happening in your head, pop it down. So remember the hairbrush and the pen? That's exactly what we're going to do with this brainstorming activity. There's nothing too wild. There's nothing too crazy. There's nothing too normal. There's nothing too simple. You might see somebody else's idea and it might give you another idea to go in a completely different tangent again. And you can yes and it all the way to the moon and back around the universe until you get to something that really, really suits where you want. So you build off each other's ideas. You can be visual. If there's something that you don't quite have the words for, you can scribble and do a little drawing. It can be one conversation at a time. But what I find most useful, and this is where the Jamboard is really cool, is sometimes it's easier to just write down all the ideas you have and post it up and slightly read, rather than talking over one another as well, because sometimes you might lose your train of thought. When you hear an idea, it might distract you and you forget to say the thing that you're saying. So it's also good to set a time limit for it and then read everybody's at the end of that time limit, and then maybe go again and see if anything generates and go again for the same time limit, and keep going like that until you've all exhausted your creative brains, and then come back and reassess all of the different ideas that are on the table and how you're going to engage with them.
There are a million ways you can brainstorm. There's no one right way. This is what we're going to be doing today. So try it out, see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, try a different way. There are lots of ideas in the curriculum alone, or you can find other ideas from your mentors or other people that you know online. This is called well, it's a little upside down, but it is a little Y tree that we put together with some adjustments. So if you take a look, let's pretend that in the middle, in the purple box, we thought, the problem that we want to focus on is that we don't have enough clean water in our community, but we're not exactly sure if that's the exact problem we want to focus on. So why is this happening? Because the water system is really deteriorated and old and the pipes are not working. This is just an example, right? But one that could very well be true in many communities. Then we can also look at some effects. We can say, okay, well, so what? I'm going to ask, so what? So what? We don't have enough clean water in the community. So why is that a problem? So what? Well, lots of people get sick because they end up drinking water that isn't completely clean, right? They don't have enough time to boil it correctly, or they get a little other water mixed in. Well, why is that a problem? They have these diseases, keep asking why or so what. So this is just one example. And I would say each of these things that you brainstormed in is a problem that you could focus on for your Technovation problem that you're going to be focusing on. What I want to do now is Sarah Jane and I are going to be helping one of you. We're going to be doing an example together. So we're going to be making our own Y tree live, and I'm going to ask all of you to also help. So first step of doing this, what problem do you think you might be interested in? Put some problems in the chat, and Sarah Jane and I are going to choose one to focus on. And then we're going to be doing this Y tree live. Sarah Jane, do you see any problem? I see so many.
So many. Oh my gosh. We've got a lot of mental health, poverty, gender inequality, homelessness, clean water, cybersecurity, peace, good health and well-being, hunger. Yeah, there's loads going on here. Some great suggestions: bullying, water pollution, mental health again, gender inequality, save stray animals. Excellent. To provide things of education, climate preservation, air issues. Oh, wow. There's so many here.
These are really broad problems. And this is where a lot of us start, right? We think, okay, we're interested in this big problem. So let's use this Y tree to break it down. Sarah Jane, any preference on what we do as an example? I'm going to share my screen.
There's a very specific example here, information about what clinics are offering vaccines. So that could be a very, that's quite specific. So we can pull out a lot from that, can't we?
Yep. All right. So here's where we're going to be starting. So let's see, sticky note. Where are clinics offering vaccines? So maybe the problem is nobody knows.
Yeah.
Okay. That is going to be our first thing that we start asking. Why and so what? All right. Are we ready, Sarah Jane?
Yeah, let's do it. Folks, as well, remember to keep going in the chat. If you've got a why is this a problem, pop it in there. Okay, so there are vaccines are helpful.
I'm going to put in, well, if people don't
can't
know,
receive vaccines.
Yep. People can't receive vaccines. All right. But why is that a problem?
So why would it be a problem, folks, if people can't receive vaccines? What are vaccines good for? Because they will catch diseases. Okay. And then diseases can spread widely. So that you can get high death rates. Viruses will spread, could lead to health problems. Some people are allergic to vaccines. Yeah. So we do need kind of information. Wasn't that part of what was said in the thing as well? Information about vaccines and vaccine centers.
Maybe I'm seeing lots of like fake news, fake disease. I'm going to say, where would you put that, Sarah Jane? I'm just going to add it here. Fake news and fake vaccine. Maybe that's a result of.
That's, yeah, it's a result, or it could be a so what to the effects of if people don't know, then it would be more on the top side of the tree, because people don't understand. If you don't have access to information and to the centers, then you may not believe it. And there could be a lot of social media dependency that causes hype.
Yep. And I see that, if people will catch diseases, more widespread disease, somebody is saying like pandemics will just keep going on.
Yeah, our healthcare system won't be able to cope if they're overrun with one type, and a lot of other people with other diseases could suffer.
To be overwhelmed. Are there any other, we could go a different direction too, like if nobody knows where vaccines are, what's another sort of like, why is that happening?
That could be a bit of the fake news thing as well. If people aren't giving the accurate information as to where the clinics are, or maybe are not reporting where they are because they are anti-vax.
Yep.
Oh, not enough vaccines are being distributed. That could be a reason why centers aren't being talked about. That was a good one, yeah.
And why aren't enough vaccines maybe available? That's another good one.
That's a good question. Yeah, it could be that they're still testing vaccines, so they don't have enough of one specific supplier who can produce enough of the one right vaccine for everybody who needs it. So supply chain issues.
Yep. Maybe they're too expensive for a certain area.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think our roots look like they're getting full. Let's go ahead and focus on the so what. So if nobody knows what, I think I misclassified these. Then I feel like this is more of a so what than a why.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and put these up here. And these are more like root causes.
So I think our tree is kind of fairly full now, isn't it?
Yep.
We're answering both the so what's and the why with all of those. And that's the really cool thing about brainstorming as well, is you get to see things from lots of different perspectives. But when you put them into something visual like this, it creates a different story, doesn't it?
Yeah. And one thing that I really like to do next for the next step is like, okay, I think like you and I both feel like, okay, we have a great amount. So what are we interested in? What really speaks to us? Because like, maybe this is what we thought we wanted to start at, but maybe there's a couple areas that really are saying, hey, I really like this part. Do you have a favorite that you would focus on, for example? This, I think, would be a great one to focus on for like tech solution, supply chain issues. Maybe too, like attacking the fake news. I've seen lots of cool ideas about that. But just to say, like, once you have your ideas, a great activity to do with your team is to like put hearts around what do you actually care about from here, and that's a great next step.
I think also for maybe something on this, it could be just that they're not being promoted. So there isn't any marketing around them. And that could be a very good, say, tech solution if you could create an app to find vaccine centers that have actual vaccine limits in them that can say, we can fit 10 people today or 20 people tomorrow, or, could be a very cool thing to tackle.
And now that we have like a couple of ideas for problems, let's hear about our community and how that can sort of feed into making our problem even more specific. So communities, when you think of communities, and I saw some questions about communities earlier in the session, is like a lot of times we think about it as the place we live, but community can be different than that too, right? We can have communities of religion, for example, or sports, or, based on interests. In this case, we're going to think about community as who we're going to be solving this problem for or with. So it might be a community you're a part of, or it might be a community that you live nearby.
Yeah, so that's right. So when we look at kind of having a solve for a community, we ask the big questions about what does it mean to be part of this community? What are the words? What are the emotions? What are the feelings? What are our understandings that we get? So a really cool way to brainstorm this is if you use the technique of A to Z. So I don't know if any of you folks know the game Stop the Bus, where there'll be a question of if you start at A, you name a boy, you name a girl, you name a car, you name a fruit, you name a country. Something like that. It's like this in reverse, where you take a community. So let's just say Technovation Girls community is one that we're all part of. And if we start from A to Z, can we name something for every letter of the alphabet that represents this community?
Cool. So this is just for practice to activate, how we think about communities. Let's think about what Technovation Girls community is for you. Go ahead and put in your entries, and we're going to make a word cloud about what Technovation Girls is for us. And this is another thing you can do with your community that you decide on. So I'm going to go there right now.
Some amazing words coming up there. Equality, diversity. And what's happening is the more often words are being typed in, the bigger that they get as well. So we can see that diversity is a big hit amongst all of you folks at the minute. And it really is amazing that it does bring everybody from loads of different backgrounds together to solve the world's problems. Opportunity, challenge, interactive, unite, exciting, equality, loving, global community. Yeah, amazing. Some incredible words here. Amazingly lovely, fun, wonderful. Diversity, love. I love that. That's brilliant.
Oh, I even see an emoji.
Oh, the rose. But this is incredible because this is what all of you are, right? You are all of these things coming together. And isn't it beautiful to see a visual representation of it?
Cool.
But one thing we do notice when we look at something like this then is when you look at it in terms of community and ideation and problem solving, using a tool like this, when you see the biggest word, that could be a clue in, where you want to solve a problem or the area that you want to work in, because it keeps coming up time and time again. So it's really handy to use these different types of tools when you're trying to problem solve or identify the areas that you want to work in.
That's right. And, you can use a word cloud like this if you want to for your community, or you can just brainstorm with your team when you start thinking about, who is your community that you are solving a problem with for. So I'm very sad we're going to move on from this brainstorm activity, but we're going to send the slides out afterwards. So you'll have them, you'll have access to this word cloud. You can always go check it out. Thank you for contributing to this word cloud, and you can continue to do so. Very cool. All right, so go ahead and right now think about, for the problem you're thinking of, what community are you a part of, or are you interested in helping or impacting the season? The more specific it can be, the better. So like if you say not just teen girls, but teen girls in Rwanda, or babies in wherever, or politicians in New Zealand, the more specific you can be, the better.
Okay, so now what it is, it's time to put it all together. So we've got a problem idea, we've got passion, we've got user research, and we've got a great problem to focus on. So our problem ideas are what we're going to identify when we're brainstorming. So we've looked at the sustainability goals and we've identified something that we're really passionate about. So like Rebecca was saying, really drill down on the who in your community that you're going to solve for. So it could be, kids with diabetes between the ages of 8 and 12. How do we teach them about their disease, and how do we help them explore healthy options and snacks available to them, right? That's really specific. And the more specific we can get with that, then we can focus on our problem and use the research, because we've got a target audience. So we can then reach out to people with this specific disease within this target age group and ask them, what would benefit you? What do you need to know about your disease? Or what do you need us to know about your disease that will help you? And therefore you can create a great problem to focus on that will really help you develop your project really swiftly, and you'll be solving a problem that is, targeted specifically at the community group that you're working with.
All right, thank you so much, Sarah Jane. This wraps up sort of the activity portion. We just have a couple of closing things to do. So after this class, make sure you complete your registration on the platform. If you haven't already, you have to get your parent to sign the consent form, and then you can start creating your teams if you haven't done that already. And you can start your submission now. Start it now, get it on the platform, and you can, have that started so you feel like, you're making these concrete steps. And go ahead and start doing some user research. Talk to that community that you identify. This is the next step. Solidify what problem you are going to work on, because every community experiences problems a little bit differently, right? Get some feedback from them right away, and you'll be on your way. Thank you all for coming. By being part of this Technovation journey, you are making a difference in your community, and we are so excited to see what you have to submit this season.